Wasteland! And in today's video we are taking a Hot Wheels VW Beetle and turning it into a Mad Max Fury Road inspired Buzzard. This will be a step-by-step tutorial with painting rust techniques covered in the next video. So I'm in my Asda Walmart here today, and hey, that looks out of place. So here we have a strip of Hot Wheels toy cars, and I don't know why it's in the cereal aisle, but it certainly has some stranger things here. I didn't even know they did a GoPro Hot Wheels base. I guess it's so you can roll it down tracks and things. Out of the bunch, there's a couple that catch my eye, but I'm going to go with the VW Beetle in this one. It's from the Checkmate line, where they printed different chess pieces onto the cars themselves. I guess so you could play Hot Wheels chess. But it's a lovely VW base to work off of, and I've been meaning to do a video on turning the cutesy looking Beetle into something a bit more Wasteland, so this is ideal. Okay, so getting this home, we've got to figure out what the plan is here. Now, I know I want to remove the front of this car, that iconic Beetle front boot lid. Let's take that off and replace that with a nice big gnarly engine. I want to show you in this video how to make a radiator entirely out of Plasticard, which is the same kind of radiator that I've used on my Wolverine War Rig build, as well as Brum the Murder Tractor. And of course, how do I do my Buzzard spikes? So this video really has come from, I think, a want to give you guys what you want, and from what I can tell, you guys really want to see a Buzzard. Now don't worry, I've got my 1000k subscriber video coming out. I am actually getting in touch with the winners today, so check your emails just in case. So without further ado, let's get into this Wasteland. Alright, so here we are back at home, and we've got the VW Beetle, and we're going to take this old Hot Wheels red truck, and we're going to use the engine and the wheels from it for this build. The Beetle wheels are quite small and of course have those horrible thin tyres that no one likes. So first things first, let's saw off the front of the Beetle. We're not even going to take it out the packaging, let's just saw straight through it. We're not gonna do that. Let's take it out properly so we can get a good grip on this. We're going to be using the metal saw I've shown off in a previous video. Pro tip guys, get a vise. I struggle way more than I need to by not using one, so just use a vise. You can get them on Amazon for like £3 or $4. Okay, so then we're removing the wheels and engine from the red truck. That was just done by drilling out the rivets and popping the engine off. Now, the easy way to add a custom engine to a build like this is just to attach 2 spars of Plasticard along the base of the car and just glue it straight on. But if you look at the front of the Volkswagen Beetle here, we've got this lovely opening which normally we'd want to cover up, we'd want to hide it, but in this case we can actually apply the spurs straight to it. We're not going to need to worry about just gluing it underneath, so we're actually going to do it a little differently. It will require more reinforcement, applying extra planks of Plasticard to make sure it doesn't move or wobble or break off when we're playing with it. And the bars really are as easy as just cutting 2 thin strips of 1mm thick Plasticard and gluing them straight on there. Now if you look at the wheels, you can see they've got some pretty nasty bends to the metal axle, so we're going to want to reinforce those with a plastic one, which will make it easier when we're attaching the wheels to the rest of the build. These were made by just taking some 2mm thick tubing. Well, I think it's 2mm. It's got a 1mm diameter hole on the inside, so that's what you're looking for. Cutting a piece to the right size and then cutting a slit all the way down from one end to the other, not cutting it in half. We just want to make enough so we can push it straight on over the metal axle. Okay, so with the axles now ready for the car, let's make some extra braces to support the two plastic spurs that the engine will go on, and let's start cleaning up and prepping the engine block. So every engine is different, and you're going to need to decide how far forward you want it to be on your build. I mean, you could have it right up close to the body of the cab, or you could have it further out with more of a space between it. It's really up to you and the kind of style that you're going for. Now, regardless, at this point you don't want to glue the wheels straight on. We're about to start work on building the radiator, and once we've attached that, we're going to want to build up some supports between it, the engine block, and the body of the car itself. So if you glue the wheels on now, you're going to have that rolling around while you're trying to do this relatively delicate work. Okay, so the radiator is a very simple build, and I'm surprised I've not seen more of it online myself, but here we go. What you want to do is take some 0.5mm Plasticard to use as a base. Cut a thin strip around about ½ an inch wide. It doesn't matter too much because we will be trimming the sides of this, so cut it a little bigger than what you need. Not massively bigger, just a little bigger. And then what we're going to be doing is taking some 0.3mm pieces of Plasticard to create that gridded grill texture on the front, and this is just as simple as cutting very thin strips, like I'd say around 1mm in thickness, and just gluing those straight on. It does take a steady hand, but with time and patience, by gluing a bit down, letting it dry, gluing another bit, letting that dry, you can build a very simple but very effective texture. I mean, that's why I've used it on so many of my builds. Okay, so while that's drying, we're going to take a piece of off-cut plastic rod and we're going to attach it underneath the engine block to resemble a connection between it and the rear axles. Okay, so it's at this point we're going to cover up the gaps in the rear wheel arches. I'm going to be using the mesh that I got in the last video, so if you want to see where that's come from, check the video description and there'll be a link at the end of this video. Okay, so at this point our radiator's been grilled up, so now we're ready to cut the sides of it and glue a 0.5mm thick Plasticard cap to the top and bottom. I like to angle the top of the radiator just to give it more of that dynamic look when we attach it to the rest of the build. And once that's in place, we can add some 1mm thick plastic rod supports and work on the air intake or blower on the top of the engine. Now you can go with whatever you like. It doesn't have to be, you know, a big triple barreled sucker. You know, it can be anything. I mean, people have made blowers out of old US mail post boxes. I mean, you can, it's really, the limitation is your imagination. But in this case I will just be going for 3 pieces of plastic rod with a cap at the end and just gluing that straight on. On the underside of the build, we're going to add some support for the wheels by adding a strip of off-cut Plasticard that will raise away from the moulded on design of the base and give it that nice flat surface to adhere to. And after that, it's time to glue on the wheels. We finally made it. Now at this point you could stop. This looks like a pretty good sort of hot rod greaser type car. The wheels might stand out a little bit. They could certainly do with spiking up, but for the most part, if you were happy, you could stop here. But this being a Buzzard build, we're going to push on. It's time to spike it up. So how do I make my spikes? Well, I take this thin I-beam, the details of which will be on the screen now, and I cut it into roughly 3 kinds of length. Now, I say roughly because this isn't an exact science, And because this is a Buzzards vehicle, we don't want these to look perfectly symmetrical. We want irregular sizes, we want damaged spikes, we want spikes which in some cases it's just the I-beam cut at an angle, and in other cases it's been sharpened to a point. The Buzzards from the Fury Road film, they had other pieces of car stuck to them. While I say there are 3 lengths that I use, these are rough guidelines. You don't need to measure these out, and you can just eyeball each cut. There's no need to measure twice and cut once at this point. Now, this is the most time-consuming part, and I recommend taking breaks in between gluing the spikes onto the car body to give the glue enough time to dry, but also to give you enough time to relax in between each bout of cutting and gluing. You know, more often than not we get tired, we get fatigued, and then we just want to rush through, and in this kind of build you really don't want to do that. You want to take your time with it, because that's how you get the most out of your build. Now, this is a 5-row build, and what I mean by that is on the top I've glued down 5 rows of spikes. I always start in the center so that I know that the spikes will be centered on the build. It will look better. But then I'll work down one side before working down the other. You get a bit of like a two-face look at one point, where one side of the car is all gnarly and messed up and the other side's all clean and perfect. But what you want to do is start front to back, glue one line all along the top and all along the boot lid, and then you want to let that dry before starting the next line. Now, if you're working on multiple cars, this is even easier, because while you're gluing spikes onto one car, the glue can be drying on the other. I tend to start with the longest spikes at the front going down to the smallest at the rear, but I like to try and follow the curve of the car. So rather than trying to make it so the spikes are just perfectly level along the top and like flat, I try and follow the natural shape of the car at this point. It gives it a bit more of a dynamic. And there you have it. That is how I make my Buzzard. There are a couple of steps that I've glossed over. I mean, covering the wheel hubs and adding spikes is really simple enough. I don't think I need to walk through that step by step. And likewise, adding various supports and little bits and pieces throughout the build. I mean, you guys are sharp enough to be able to see that, so you know, I like to think that I don't need to say literally every single second of every single step. You guys can fill in the blanks. And besides, every car that you work on is different. But if you feel up to the challenge of building your own Buzzard, I hope that you'll look through this video and try building your own. As a bonus, I built 2 more. So here's the Volkswagen Beetle with a lovely pair of 32 Fords that I made up for Ben Kane. And in each of them you've got 7 rows of spikes, so they took even longer. Yes, so as I said at the start of the video, the 2 lucky winners of the 1,000 sub giveaway I am contacting right now, so check your emails. And besides that, guys, I want to say thank you for continuing to watch and support my videos. We're up to 1,300 subscribers now, lucky number 13, and who knows, maybe we'll hit 15k and go close to 2,000. I mean, the only way is up, right? Well, not with the quality of these videos, but we're getting there, that's the important thing. Anyway, Wasteland, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, and goodbye. And don't forget to check out my main man Faux Render's channel. We've got a new video coming out soon where we talk more about Time Extended 2. He's got some great new videos up there, like unboxing some of Ken's brand new wheels, which please send to the UK. The postage is like 6 times the cost of the wheel. As well as interviewing Jim from over at Game Terrain Engineering, and that's pretty sick. Alright, thanks guys, and goodbye.